Right, welcome to the replay, or if you're joining me live, welcome to the broadcast. Hello, my name is Joe. Hello, Estrulita22, welcome. For those of you who are just joining, Jenny Garango, welcome. Hello, my name is Joe McCullough. I'm the Physic de Chile. Hero Training. Ooh, I like your name. Hello. So today we're talking about 5 brain facts you need to know to make your message memorable. This is designed for any speaker, trainer, teacher, anybody who's delivering content and wants to make sure that that content gets stored in their long-term memory. Hey, L. Washburn 1, welcome to today's scope. So I have already done 4 parts. Austin Media Pro, welcome. I've already covered 4 brain tips out of the 5, but I'm going to do a big recap. I'm going to give you all 5 brain tips, and this is things we know from neuroscience that are going to help make sure that whatever message you're delivering to your audience, to your students, to your participants, that get remembered. You need web design for marketing. Okay, I won't even comment on that. So let's start with the very first one. Hey, Peterson Grant J. Very first brain fact you need to know is VAK. Visual memories are stored in different parts of the brain. VAK stands for visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. And what we know is that memories are actually stored in different parts of the brain. Neuroscience used to think that memories were stored almost like a videotape, kind of the way you would record a show, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Visual memories are stored in our visual cortex, auditory memories in our auditory cortex, and then kinesthetic memories in our somatosensory cortex. Hey, Mabby LT. So what does it mean as a speaker? It means if you want your information to get stored and for them to remember it days later, weeks later, it's extremely important that you use different kinds of teaching modalities. So what I'd like to do is give you 5 different visual strategies, 5 different auditory strategies, and 5 different kinesthetic strategies. So here are the first 5 strategies, and these all have a visual component. Strategy number 1, use flip charts for key content and hang the flip charts around the room. I love using flip charts during my training, and a great practice is after you're done with a flip chart, hang it on the room. I like the flip charts that have the kind of little post-it note stickets, and what's great is after you have 5 or 10 or 15 flip charts, which you can do as a review is called a gallery walk, where you get participants in groups of 3 or 4, have them walk around the room, spend about a minute or 2 under each flip chart, and review the information that's on the flip chart. A great way of getting participants moving, getting them actively talking with each other, and reviewing the information. Excuse me. Visual strategy number 2, use color, lots and lots and lots of color, and color code your content. You'll notice these little index cards. I try to use color. One of the reasons this is important is because about half of our brain's resources are spent processing visual data. And the more visual you can make your content, the more strongly it's going to be remembered. The M. Howard, welcome. We're talking about brain facts that you must know as a speaker, presenter, or teacher to make sure your information gets stored in long-term memory. 3 more visual strategies. Use pictures, diagrams, and videos. Anytime you're showing any kind of slide to your audience, make sure text is at a minimum. We're visual learners, and the more video and diagrams and pictures that you can include in your slides, the better it's going to be remembered. Yeah, it's true. I agree with you. Thank you so much. Visual strategy number 4, anchor content to a prop or to a specific location. There's a dead animal on your... I gotta love Periscope. I do need a haircut, obviously. Okay, and I've been teaching all day. So anchor specific information to a proper location and then use visual language. Things like, can you picture this? Imagine, see this in your mind's eye. So those are 5 strategies to make sure that they have a visual component, make sure the information gets stored in your visual cortex. Now let's go through 5 auditory strategies. Auditory, everything we hear. Auditory information is stored in our auditory cortex or our temporal lobes. First one is use music. Music is key. Music has a way of just changing people's state. As a teacher, and let me just tell you, I teach college physics and this stuff works like gold. I always have upbeat rock and roll music playing as soon as students walk into the classroom. It energizes them, it gets them pumped up. And then anytime I have students doing pair shares or group interactions or speaking with each other, I have upbeat non-instrumental. But any great presentation or training you've probably been to, I bet you they incorporated music and had music playing all along. 2, use callbacks. A callback is like a simultaneous response where everyone in the room repeats something after you. So I might say, today in physics, we're going to be learning Newton's law. What are we going to learn? And they'll say Newton's laws. Or I might say, now this stuff is going to be awesome. Is that good or good? And I pause, wait for a second or two, and wait for them to respond. This is great because anytime you can get people repeating your content, the act of them saying it through their mouth, hearing it through their ears is going to make it that much more memorable. People just sitting back and passively taking in information, the least effective way of learning. Number 3, use vocal variations and, really important, purposeful pauses. I love using purposeful pauses. Anytime you're saying something and then you pause, people, even if they aren't paying attention, that silence gets people attention. They're hanging on your word. They can't wait to hear what you have to say next. Auditory strategy number 4 is provide opportunities to learn with a partner. Anytime you're reviewing information, try and have them talking with somebody else. We're social creatures, and the more you can get people interacting, the more memorable it's going to be. And then last but not least, number 5, create a song, chant, or rhyme for key content. This is a big one. If you really want information to be remembered, think about creating a rhyme or a chant or a song. Think about how many songs you know by heart. For most people, it's in the hundreds, maybe even thousands, and for a lot of people, they didn't consciously try to memorize the songs. There's something about music, it just sticks in our long-term memory. I still remember Barry Manilow's songs that my mom used to play on the radio that I haven't heard in 35 years. Okay, I just went through 5 visual strategies, 5 auditory strategies. Now we're going to talk about 5 kinesthetic strategies. Thank you, whoever's given me all of those green hearts. Kinesthetic strategy number 1, big one, provide opportunities to learn by doing. You want your participants actively involved, and anytime you can get them learning by doing, role-playing, something like that, all the better. Anytime I'm training teachers, I always have them practice teach to another teacher or a group. It's one thing to sit back and learn the theory, but actually putting it into practice is going to make it stick. Kinesthetic strategy number 2, get students moving. I'll talk about this in a bit, but you want students moving every 15 or 20 minutes. It could be getting up and dancing, could be getting up and stretching, it could be as simple as give somebody next to you a high five, give somebody an elbow bump, a fist bump, exploding fist bump. Get them so they're not sitting back and passively taking notes or listening for 15, 20 minutes at a time. 3 more kinesthetic strategies. We have do standing reviews. If you're going to be reviewing information, why not have people stand up, get in groups of 2 or 3, and review the information while standing? 4, create motions for key content. Now, for some people, this may seem silly, but I'm here to tell you, after training teachers for many years, this stuff sticks if you can attach some kind of motion to it. So you'll notice that every time I say visual, auditory, kinesthetic, I'm doing a motion. And that's because I've taught it so many times this way that those words, visual, auditory, and kinesthetic, are anchored to the movement. So anytime I think VAK, I automatically start moving. And then the last one is lead students in a quick stretch. This could be a standing stretch, it could be sitting, but get students moving. That's powerful. Hero training, thank you very much. This stuff is based upon neuroscience. It is the way to make sure information gets transferred from short-term to long-term memory. So how do you know what type of learner a person is? Great question, and here's the answer I tell my teachers. One, it doesn't matter what kind of learner they are. Everybody has a preferred learning style. Some people prefer visual, some people auditory, some people kinesthetic, but everybody learns better when you incorporate all three. There's a ton of research that shows that if you teach auditory learners just using auditory strategies, that doesn't lead to any kind of improvement in test scores. So this is why I gave you 15 different strategies, 5 visual, 5 auditory, 5 kinesthetic, because anytime you're presenting information, it doesn't matter if the room is all visual or all kinesthetic, which would never happen, but you always want to incorporate VAK into every presentation. And I can tell you as a physics teacher, I'm always thinking about, okay, what is the visual and auditory component in this lesson? How am I going to get people moving and involve a kinesthetic component? Okay, brain fact number 2, real quick recap for those of you just joining in. My name's Dr. Joe McCullough. I'm the physics department chair at Cabrillo College, and we're talking about how to make your message memorable. 5 facts we know from neuroscience about the brain, how we process, store, and retain information. What I'm giving you is 5 brain facts to make sure you can have your participants remember the information days or weeks from now. The first one I went through is VAK memories are stored in different parts of the brain, so you always want to include different teaching modalities in every lesson. Second one, thank you for this info. Hope to use it with my nephew. He's struggling in school. Yes, take this information and make sure he gets it. And actually at the end, I'll show you my website. I have all sorts of accelerated learning techniques for students, that kind of information on there. Okay, brain fact number 2. Our brains can only pay attention for about 10 minutes before losing focus. It used to be a lot longer, and over the last 10, 15, 20 years, especially since the cell phone, our attention span has dropped dramatically. What this means is, as a speaker, as a trainer, as a teacher, if you were talking for more than 15 or 20 minutes without doing something, people are going to start to lose focus. So what I recommend is planning brain breaks every 10 to 15 minutes. A brain break is something where students are getting actively involved. They're getting out of this rut of just sitting down and listening and taking notes. In a sense, what you're doing is you're resetting the clock back to 0. Is this the case for all people? Yes and no. People can train their focus, and as you start to do this, you can focus for longer and longer and longer periods of time. One of the things I tell my students is to focus for 25 minutes on, then take a 5-minute break, 25 minutes on, and then take a 5-minute break. However, people have to work up to that. And the younger you are, the shorter your attention span is. So depending upon the age that you're teaching, if you're a teacher, younger kids, you need to think about doing brain breaks more often. So brain fact number 2 is our brains can only pay attention for about 10 minutes before losing focus. Let me pause for just a second. Are there any questions I can answer? No? Okay. Moving on to brain fact number 3. Our brains are trained to respond to novelty. This comes from evolution. Things that stick out, catch our attention, shift our focus, and make us pay attention. So constantly think about using some kind of novel approach in your presentation. Increase the novelty in your presentation. What I've been doing as a physics teacher is starting to use magic in my classroom, starting to use powerful videos, really amazing eye-catching demonstrations that just capture people's attention. And once I have their attention, then I can drop a knowledge bomb and make sure that whatever I tell them sticks in their long-term memory. And if you've been following me, I've shown you some cool physics demos and some awesome magic tricks, and that's just the beginning. Brain fact number 4. Emotions play a huge role in how well we learn or don't learn something. And in fact, do I have a Post-it note? A little prop here. An emotion is basically a Post-it note that tells your brain to pay attention. Anytime content can have an emotional charge to it, that content is going to be much better remembered. Here's a question I ask a lot. Do you remember what you had for dinner, let's say 3 weeks ago? And almost everyone says no. Do you remember your first kiss? And almost everyone can. Why does everyone remember their first kiss? Because it has a huge emotional tie to it. It's something that we'll probably never ever forget. So think about making sure your content has some kind of emotional appeal to it. How can you do that? 1, make learning joyful. The more positive emotion you can attach to learning, the stronger the learning is going to be. 2, tell personal stories. There's just something about stories that just connect us together. It draws people in. If you can teach using stories, man, that is about as powerful as you can get. And then 3, end on a high note. You want people leaving your class, your training, really just jazzed and excited. And what that's going to do, it's going to release dopamine. And dopamine is our happy drug, but it also aids in long-term memory. And then the very last thing, brain fact number 5, is actually called the primacy-recency effect, also known as the serial position effect. And what this says is that we remember the most at the beginning and the end of any learning situation or anything. I often give my students a memory test where I give them a list of 20 words to memorize, and I give them 1 minute to do it. And then I ask them to write down what they remember. And inevitably, the words that are most well remembered are the first word and the last word. Hey, Disney Nerd 555, welcome. We're talking about 5 brain facts that all speakers should know to make your message memorable. The last one we just talked about is brain fact number 5, the primacy-recency effect. We remember the most at the beginning and the end of any learning session. This is why I recommend, as a teacher, teaching in chunks of 20 minutes. Because what you're doing is if you teach in a chunk of 20 minutes and then do a little brain break and then another chunk of 20 minutes, you're creating more beginnings and endings. And we always remember the most at the beginning and the end of any kind of learning session. Okay, let's do a quick little recap. Oh, so one thing about this, you may notice if you follow me that I almost always end on a recap. The reason is because that is the most memorable part of any presentation. The beginning, when our brains are fresh, and the end, that's the last thing we're hearing. So constantly think about recapping using the fact that the beginning and end of any learning session, any training, any class are the most memorable. Let me gather up my cards, pause for a quick break to see if there are any questions that I can answer, and then I'm going to do a quick little recap to tell you what I just covered. So anybody out there have a question I can answer about memory, how a speaker or trainer or teacher can make sure their content gets stored in their students' long-term memory? Going once, going twice, sold for no dollars. Okay, here is a quick little recap, brain facts that all speakers should know. Brain fact number 1, VAK memories are stored in different parts of the brain. VAK stands for visual, auditory, kinesthetic. If you want your message to be remembered, make sure you use visual, auditory, and kinesthetic teaching modalities anytime you're presenting information. 2, our brains can only pay attention for about 10 minutes before losing focus. That's probably why my numbers have dropped a bit. I try to keep these scopes to less than 10 minutes, but I just have so much great content I want to share. If I were doing this during an online or during a training, I would be pausing, having students get up and move, high-five each other, putting on music, something so I am not talking for more than about 15 minutes at a time. Number 3, our brains are trained to respond to novelty. Things that are outside the ordinary, that are novel, make us pay attention. They shift our focus, and anytime you can use novel approaches to teaching, that's going to make your information that much more memorable. Brain fact number 4, emotions play a huge role in how well we learn or don't learn something. Any kind of negative emotion literally destroys our capacity for learning. You want to foster positive emotions, and as a physics teacher, I'm constantly thinking about my students' emotional state Are they in the right state for learning? If they're not, then I'm not going to go ahead and try and teach when my students are obviously not receptive to the information. My time is better spent making sure I get them in the right emotional state before I deliver my content. And then brain fact number 5, primacy recency effect. This states that we remember the most at the beginning and the end of any learning session. So as a teacher, I'm constantly thinking about putting my most important information right at the beginning and right at the end of a presentation. Okay, that is it. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dr. Joe McCullough. I'm the physics program chair at Cabrillo College. I'm also the best-selling author of Accelerated Learning Techniques for Students, and I train teachers and students in how the brain works and how they can use that. Thank you, Hero Training. You are so welcome. The brain is an amazing, mysterious thing in the human body. The brain freaking rocks. It is just, it's awesome. What can I say? Okay, so I made a commitment to get on Periscope every single day for an entire year and share with you all sorts of amazing information web. Yes, I will give you my website in a second, actually. And I'm giving you daily doses of dopamine through education, entertainment, and inspiration. So let me just give you the schedule for this week because I'm trying to actually let people know what I'm going to be presenting. So today I just finished off Make Your Message Memorable. Since my semester just started, like that tagline. Hey Wayne, how you doing? I do like that. Daily doses of dopamine. Woo! Tuesday through Thursday, that's tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday, I'm going to show you some awesome physics demos. 2 or 3 demos that are really going to make you say, what the hell just happened? And it's going to be pretty cool. And then Friday and Saturday, I'm going to be in Vegas playing some poker and hanging out with my family. And I'm probably going to scope and show you, actually I have no idea what I'm going to show you. I'll show you some of the sights from Vegas. And then, heart it up, y'all! Woohoo! I'm sure I was amazed by it when I went to see the body exhibit in Las Vegas. Actually, that's one of the things I'm really thinking of seeing. That and Penn and Teller. As I said, I'm a big fan of magic and I'm wanting to check them out. So if you like this, I'm going to do an actual longer video blog on this. I have a website. That website is, actually it's not on here. Website is basically just drjoemccullough.com. But you can find all these videos on YouTube if you search for Joe McCullough. I do archive all of these scopes, so you can find every scope I've done since day one. Penn and Teller are awesome. They are awesome. And I love Penn and Teller Fool Us. Yes, they are awesome. I've never seen them before live. Totally hoping to see them live. So you could also follow me on Twitter at Dr. Joe McCullough. Or if you want to follow me on Periscope, you can swipe from left to right on an iPhone, straight up on an Android. And I will be, like I said, on here every single day. I believe this is day 27, although I'm not sure. Haven't been keeping track of exactly what day, but I have been on here every day for more than 3 weeks. So before I sign off, and thank you so much for the hearts, any questions I can answer about long-term memory, how to make sure that your information, your message is more memorable to anybody attending a training, a workshop, a fun shop, any kind of thing like that. No, I kind of just want to sit here and watch all the hearts go by. Okay, well that is it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to maybe touching base with you in the future. And let me just say, tomorrow you don't want to miss it. I'm going to show you a really awesome physics demonstration. Okay, thank you. You are so welcome. This is Joe for today, and have a wonderful, wonderful evening, and I hope to check you all tomorrow. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much. All right, have a wonderful evening. Take care.